Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that takes one of our most universal, deeply ingrained human experiences and turns it into an absolute masterclass of tension. It's called The Voice Under the Bed. All right, let's jump right in and honestly, prepare yourself. We're setting a very dark, immersive tone right out of the gate here.
Seriously, I want you to think about this question for a second. When was the last time you actually looked? As adults, we've kind of just rationalized away the dark, right? We trust the empty spaces in our homes. But the narrative we're exploring today forces us to completely re-engage with those primal childhood fears. It asks us a truly terrifying question. What if that instinct to hide under the covers wasn't just some childhood fantasy, but an actual survival mechanism?
So the anomaly begins with a simple, chilling midnight whisper from an 8-year-old boy named Ethan to his mother, Sarah. It's a classic setup. Sarah sighs, walks into his room, and sees her boy looking just completely terrified. She tries to comfort him, says it's just a nightmare, but Ethan insists. He heard a man talking. So what does she do? Sarah looks under the bed, finds absolutely nothing, smiles, and heads back to her own room. But notice the precision here. 3:07 a.m. This isn't just a random middle-of-the-night wake-up call. It's a specific, chilling timestamp that acts as the catalyst for literally everything that follows. At 3:07 a.m., Sarah checked, and reality was seemingly restored. But that relief? Yeah, it only lasts for a few minutes.
Ethan closes his eyes. The room is dead silent. And then, a whisper comes from directly beneath the mattress. Good, she's gone. Just imagine that for a second. The entity wasn't hiding from Sarah because it was afraid. No, it was simply waiting for the guardian to leave the room.
The very next morning, the psychological toll is already visible. Ethan looks totally exhausted. He casually mentions that the man under the bed talked all night long. Sarah, clearly trying to maintain her grip on reality here, laughs nervously and assures him there is no man under the bed. But Ethan just slowly looks up at her and delivers this chilling contradiction. He says, "You're wrong." The entity is now actively pushing back against the mother's authority. We can track the rapid escalation of this haunting right here, and wow, we are not dealing with a slow burn. On night 1, the physical environment just starts breaking down. Doors open by themselves, lights flicker, and footsteps echo down the hallway at exactly 3:07 a.m. Every night, always the same time. Then night 2 is when the psychological infiltration deepens, with Ethan learning these impossible secrets. By day 3, professional spiritual help is brought in, only to completely fail. The situation is totally spiraling out of control. So the crucial breaking point of night 2 is this deeply disturbing secret. Ethan looks right at Sarah and says, "Dad didn't die instantly." Sarah just freezes. This is a fact that nobody, and I mean nobody, had ever shared with an 8-year-old boy. When she asks him who told him that, his answer is just devastatingly simple. The man under the bed. The entity is literally using verified, traumatic family history to prove its existence to the boy. Later that same night, Sarah is standing outside Ethan's door. She hears 2 distinct voices, and notice the stark contrast we're looking at here. On one side, you've got Ethan's innocent, sleepy voice. But on the other side, the voice coming from beneath the bed is deep, cold, and explicitly not human. Sarah slowly opens the door to find her son fast asleep. Yet, the unnatural whispering from below the bed, it just keeps going.
Driven by pure maternal instinct and absolute terror, let's be real, Sarah grabs a flashlight. Her hands are visibly trembling. She kneels down to look underneath. At first, nothing, just darkness. But then, out of nowhere, a pale hand shoots out and physically grabs her wrist. Sarah screams and the hand vanishes. But for one horrifying split second, she catches a glimpse of a face in the darkness, smiling, just watching her.
This terrifying encounter brings us to the next day's failed exorcism. A priest arrives to bless the house, right? But the moment he steps into Ethan's room, the entity immediately asserts its dominance. Every single light bulb in the room just explodes, pitch darkness. And then a single word whispers through the air, "Leave." The priest turns completely pale, tells Sarah he can't help her, and literally just walks out and abandons the family.
3 nights later, we hit the absolute breaking point. Sarah wakes up to the sound of Ethan screaming. She rushes into his room, but the bed is completely empty. Her son is gone. All that remains are these deep scratch marks gouged right into the floor, leading directly beneath the bed. And then Very faintly from the darkness below, she hears Ethan crying for help.
Sarah doesn't even hesitate. Her desperate descent into the unknown is this terrifying three-step process. Step 1, she physically tethers herself to our reality by tying a rope around her waist. Step 2, she crawls directly into the dark space beneath the bed. And Step 3, after minutes of crawling through a darkness that literally seems to stretch on forever, she emerges into something entirely impossible.
She enters a giant underground world. I really want you to try to visualize the sheer scale of this hidden domain. She discovers thousands of beds standing in endless, unnatural rows. It's an entire hidden world existing directly beneath ours. And the absolute most terrifying detail? Under every single one of those beds, something is moving, watching, waiting.
Deep within this impossible, sprawling space, Sarah finally finds Ethan. But he isn't alone. He's standing right beside a towering, monstrous entity. It's a tall shadow. Its smile is unnaturally wide, stretching way too far across its face, and its eyes are glowing this piercing white in the dark. This is it. This is the true face of the voice under the bed.
The entity looks directly at Sarah. It doesn't scream or attack right away. Instead, it delivers this incredibly cold, menacing warning. You shouldn't have come here. It's a pure statement of absolute territorial control. Sarah knows right then and there she's crossed a line mortals are not meant to cross. She grabs Ethan and they just run.
And this is exactly where the underground domain erupts into total chaos. The creatures beneath the thousands of beds begin crawling out into the open. We're talking hundreds of them. Their bones are cracking loudly, echoing all around. Their mouths open impossibly wide as they scramble on all fours, chasing Sarah and Ethan through the absolute darkness, getting closer and closer.
Just as they are about to be completely overtaken, Sarah spots a faint, familiar light. It's Ethan's bedroom. She grabs her son and leaps toward it with absolutely everything she has left. The two of them violently crash onto the hard wooden floor of their own home. They frantically look back, and the horrific underground tunnel, it is completely vanished. Everything in the room looks perfectly normal again. Mundane reality seems to have fully returned. Except for one chilling detail lingering in the gap between the mattress and the floorboards. Two glowing white eyes are still there, staring back at her from the shadows.
The nightmare isn't over. The boundary is just temporarily closed. From the darkness, a final, collective whisper drifts into the bedroom. We'll be waiting. It's a promise. A terrifying guarantee that the domain beneath the bed is always there, literally just inches away from where we sleep. And yeah, unsurprisingly, Sarah and Ethan pack up and move away the very next week.
Now, let's fast forward through time to look at the long-term aftermath of this. Years have passed. The trauma of that night slowly faded into the background, basically buried under the weight of normal everyday life. Ethan grows up, moves on, and eventually becomes a father himself, building his own family. Seems like a happy ending, right?
Well, not exactly. One quiet night, history repeats itself. Ethan's own young son looks up at him, points a small finger toward the dark space beneath his bed, and quietly whispers the exact same devastating words. "Dad, there's a man under there." The cycle wasn't broken at all. The entities, they simply waited a generation.
Which brings us to our final takeaway. Are the monsters beneath our beds ever truly left behind? This narrative brilliantly shows us that some fears aren't just in our heads. They might just be waiting patiently in the dark, ready to be passed down to the absolute next generation. Definitely something to think about tonight before you turn off the lights. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.